just quickly, some testimonies. I'm just trying to think of some. We did a supernatural school in the holidays with the youth. That was about 2 weeks ago now. And I can't think of any offhand. One of them that was pretty funny was Brandon. Where's Brandon? He's here at the back. Him and Jason were down at the promenade in Umhlanga the one afternoon praying for people. And John Pierce was lifting them, and he saw these like really strong, big men like on the beach, like, huh? Richard and George, just like Richard and George, but it wasn't. And he said, hey, why don't you guys go pray for them? So Brandon told me this story. It's just so funny how he tells it. I should get you to tell it, but anyway, I won't. And he says, okay, Jason, are you ready for a black eye? We're going to go tell these guys about Jesus, but seriously, they're so big, so I'm so scared right now, like I'm petrified. Get ready for them to punch us in the face. And he goes up to them, and he's like babbling over his words. He's like, hey, we just want to, and the guy says to him, do you want a photo? And Brandon's a bit shocked. He's a bit thrown back. He's like, that's such a random thing to say to someone. Like, what is going on? And he's like, no. We want to pray for you. And then the guy apparently said, pray. Yeah, pray. Please, come. And he called all his friends. And basically, it was the Argentina rugby team that were on the beach ready for a match. So they got to pray for the Argentina rugby team. So cool. They got to pray for each and every one of them. I think that's great. I think probably... Yeah. They didn't pray too hard because the Sharks won. You guys, next time. But I think, the biggest thing for me from that school that we did was just to see young people step out without any fear, like absolutely no fear. Some of the girls, I don't know if Kathy Pierce is here, I wasn't there, but she was apparently just going up to like Muslim families, like mom, dad, kids in a pram, and just stopping them and saying, hey, I just want to tell you Jesus loves you. I'm like, wow. I'm just scared to tell my like Christian neighbor more about Jesus. Like, just incredible to see these young people with absolutely no fear, just stepping out for God. We were in Gateway. I took about 8 girls with me. And from the time it took to go from the movies at the top, down the lift, and out the doors, it took us about 10 minutes. Why? Because once they had started to speak to someone, they got so excited about telling people about Jesus and praying for them that we got out the lift and we were trying to walk, and they said, Shaun, stop. I want to go pray for this person. So they went off to go pray. I'm like, guys, we've got to go. We need to be back. And they came back. Took a few more steps. Like, Shaun, wait. We need to go pray for this person. So it was just so encouraging just to see young people set on fire for God, like really stepping out in faith. So you guys know the youth are on fire. We had a good night last Friday night. It was awesome. Everybody was flat on their face in the presence of God. It was good. Okay, I got to be quick. I'm feeling quite emotional about this one. I had 2 talks that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I spoke to George, and he said, no, go with this one. And I've spoken this message once before, and other time at the youth. And I spoke it at the youth, and don't feel like it hit as hard as it did the very first time I spoke it, which was in Cape Town at my old church. And I realized it's because I'd just come out of this experience when I preached it in Cape Town. And, our bodies and our brains are amazing things because they can cause us to literally forget painful experiences that we actually went through, right? I don't know if you guys know that. Like, your brain has the ability to make you forget, as if all feelings, like thoughts, like memories, like you can literally forget. Sometimes things are so painful that we go through that your body just cannot take it and causes you to forget. And what I did is this afternoon, I went into my computer and I found the recording of the first time that I preached this. And I was getting rocked because God was just showing me all the stuff that I forgot and how hectic this thing that I went through was. What I want to talk to you guys tonight about is my story of dealing with anxiety. And this is something that I struggled with for about 10 years. And just listening to myself talking about it and listening to that talk today, I just realized like how hectic it actually was. And I realized how much I'd actually forgotten and how good God is and how much He'd saved me from and how much He had delivered me from. So tonight's going to be a bit raw. It's going to be a bit vulnerable. It's going to be a bit messy. And I don't know where it's going to go at the end. So I'm just trusting that God's going to do something. I just know when the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. So that's what I want, and the Spirit of the Lord is here. So, yeah, Spirit of the Lord, we just invite you here right now, God. Come and just bring freedom. Just come and bring your presence, God. Yeah, we just love you. I thank you that you're right here in this place right now, God. Amen. Amen. Cool. So, when I was a kid, I grew up being quite fearful. I just remember I was a very fearful kid. I was afraid of a lot of stuff. I don't know if you guys remember that program, The X-Files? Yes? I actually preached this message to the youth, and I said, hey, do you guys remember the program, The X-Files? And I was like, creak, creak, creak. I was like, oh no, I'm so old. But I remember, like, as a young 6-year-old, watching this program, The X-Files, and there was something about the music, just the music alone, that like, it gives me chills right now thinking about it. I would hear the music sometimes, like I'd be walking through my lounge and my parents would be watching it on TV, and I would hear the music, and there was something about this program, it would invoke such fear inside of me that I literally ran off to my bedroom, hid under the bed, closed my eyes and put my hands over my ears, and I was like, la, 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 because of this fear that had crept in through this music and the programs that I had watched. I just remember being just very, very frightened of stuff and very fearful as a little kid and always scared to do wrong. I was very fearful to do wrong. I remember being in sub B, grade 2, and I remember talking in my group. We were having group time, and I spoke, and the teacher said, Shaun, like, you're making a noise, stop talking, go minus 20 points from your group. And I just burst into tears. I was like, oh, Jesus, I just burst into tears. I had this fear of doing wrong, this fear. It was like a natural part of my life growing up. I don't know if it was like that for anyone else, but I just remember me as a kid growing up, fear was almost natural to me. And I think a big thing, and that stuck out to me, I remember when I was probably about 6 years old as well. I watched this. My parents were watching this like CSI type program. You know those programs where there's a gruesome murder at the beginning and they try to figure it out. Anyway, this murder had happened, and this lady was basically she'd been killed, and she was face down on the floor in like a pool of blood. It was pretty gross. And the camera like panned over from the top down on her. And what happened is they flipped the body over, and as they flipped the body over, somebody had like stabbed her in the chest, but they'd stabbed these words into her chest, like pretty like disgusting stuff. And I remember this picture. There was something about this picture that almost like it jumped out of the screen into my mind. And I remember going to bed that night and thinking, that's going to happen to me. That is going to happen to me. Someone's going to come into my bedroom tonight and stab me tonight. And what I did was I was like, if I lie on my back, that's going to happen. So I'm going to sleep on my side. I'm going to curl myself up, put my arms like this, and go to sleep on my side. Firstly, because I'm protecting my chest. And secondly, if somebody has to come in and they want to stab me in my chest, they're going to have to touch me to turn me over. And by then, I can wake up and hopefully fend them off or call for someone. And it was quite bad. I developed this terrible sleeping, whatever position, where I literally had my arms curled over my legs like this. And I don't know if you know, but going to bed night after night for like 15 years doing that, like you're going to develop some problems. And I remember being in grade 10, and I woke up this one morning, and I had this pain like in my sternum, in my chest. I was really sore, and I was like, well, what is that? So I go to my mom, and bless my mom, she's one of those moms where you say, hey, Mom. I went to her, and I was like, Mom, like, I got this pain in my chest, like I'm like struggling to breathe. This is really weird. And she's like, oh, just drink some water and walk it off. You'll be fine. Like, thanks, Mom. I don't know if there's any moms like that here, but she's amazing. I love her so much. But I'm like, Mom, I cut my arm off. She's like, take a Panado. It's like, oh, no. She's like one of those moms. And what happened is I started to have problems going to sleep. this pain in my chest like would come and go. And what would happen is, as I was going to sleep, I would struggle to sleep for years and years and years, on and off. This is what happened. As I was going to sleep, it's quite a scary thing, but I'd be falling asleep, and then all of a sudden I'd wake up like almost like frightened and scared because I was out of breath, and I'd stop breathing. And I'd have to go, and I'd catch my breath, and I was like, what is that? And it freaked me out, like absolutely freaked me out, like one of the scariest things. And I would start to get heart palpitations, and I'd get in hot sweats and be freaked out. And this thing would happen like for years and years, and I'm talking like 3, 4, 5 times a week. Sometimes it would take me like 2 to 3 hours to actually go to sleep. And sometimes it would happen instantly, so I'd wake up from this crazy thing where I'd literally stop breathing. And I don't know if like most people, like if you've never experienced this, like you expect when you go to sleep, like you expect to go to sleep. Like that's what's supposed to happen. But this didn't happen with me. When I expected to go sleep, I would stop breathing. And what would happen is I would go through this, like sometimes 3 hours it would take me to fall asleep because I would go through these episodes. But when I was sleeping, I was fine. I would sleep through the night. It was just as I was falling asleep. And I remember just at that time in my life, like just being so prone to fear. And just like all of this stuff was happening at the same time, and I just started to think the worst of situations. I remember my mind just changing. I was like, anything bad that could happen will happen. I remember stupid things like walking around a corner. I'm about to take a corner. I'm like, somebody's going to be around the corner and they're going to stab me. I was like, just irrational, complete irrational, crazy thoughts that would just pop into my mind. I would say things like, I'm going to mess this up. This is going to go wrong. This is not going to work. That was my constant state of mind. Like, those were the thoughts running through my head daily. And it was like, it would go from 1 to 100 instantly or quickly. And then what happened is these thoughts, random things. I would be sitting in an elevator, and I was convinced that this elevator was about to snap, and I was going to fall like 4 or 5 stories to my death. I would be driving in a car and on a highway, and a truck would be coming, and I would see the truck from a distance off, and I was convinced that this truck's axis was going to break, and he was going to veer off the road, he was going to turn and come at me and hit me, and I would die in a head-on collision. So in my mind, I would start to create these like elaborate ways of getting out of it. So I'm like, okay, if this truck is coming and it's going to swerve this way and come hit me there, there's a gap over there, and I could take that gap, and I could just make it out in time, and I'll be fine, and I'll survive. I don't know if you guys, some of you are just like, Shaun, it's a truck. You don't even notice that kind of stuff. But this was my mind. These things, it was the way that I thought. It literally plagued my mind from morning to evening, and even through the evening, as I was trying to fall asleep. And this continued for years and years and years. And I think it got the worst when myself and my wife, Kelly, we went to Bethel. We went to the school there in 2011. And the school was great, and it was amazing, and it changed my life. And I can't remember when it happened, but as we were at school and I was doing school, I had this thought, this random thought just popped into my mind one day. I don't even remember where I was, what I was doing, but this thought popped into my mind. And it went like this. It said, I'm going to fall down and have a seizure. And that was it. And I was like, that's weird. And I think I even remember there was like a bit of a feeling. I think that's why I started thinking. And I was like, I had this weird like feeling come over me. And I was like, I'm going to fall down and have a seizure right now. And it freaked me out. Like it absolutely freaked me out. And the thing is that thought didn't come just once. It came again and again and again and again. And it just kept coming. And it started to become a constant thought where I would think about falling down and having a seizure constantly, like over and over, like multiple times a day. I'm talking like 20, and it developed to like 20 or 30 times a day. Like this thought would just pop into my head. And it got to a point where it wasn't just a thought anymore, but that I had a few times a day. But I literally began to entertain these thoughts that popped into my mind. So it started out as a thought, I'm going to fall down and have a seizure. And what I would do in my mind is I would take these thoughts and I begin to entertain them and create like these elaborate scenes that would happen in my mind. And it would go like, I'm going to fall down and have a seizure right now. And it's going to be a traffic jam. And the ambulance, somebody's going to call the ambulance. They're going to find me 2 minutes too late because of the traffic. The ambulance is going to come. I'm going to get into the ambulance, but I'm going to die on the way to the hospital. I'll be like really raw and vulnerable with you guys, but I would have visions of like Kelly over my deathbed, like crying and her like being widowed, like by me getting taken out. And I had these crazy, random, elaborate scenes that would play out in my mind. It was like every bad thing that was going to happen would happen. And I would imagine the scene playing out in detail, and it just made me more and more scared and more frightened. And then one day, like my thoughts literally became my destiny. And one day, I was thinking this thought, and I was going into this process of falling down, having a seizure, and somebody picking me up to lead, and I was going to die. And then what happened is my body literally started to feel the sensation of something happening. And I literally started to feel some of these things that I was thinking. And I started to get lightheaded. I started to get dizzy. And my heart started to race like crazy. And these processes, that's how it goes. It was like a process of just thoughts into taking these thoughts, becoming elaborate scenes, and then feeling it in my body. It was like years and years and years and years of stuff where it started off as just a thought. But after years and years of me entertaining it and partnering with it, it became something that my body started to physically feel. And I remember like I would have these thoughts and these feelings like I'm about to have a seizure right now. And I would be in public and I'm like, I'm about to fall down. And I would reach out and grab someone just close to me, because if I grabbed them in time, they would see me and they could call an ambulance, so that by the time I hit the ground, like at least somebody was phoning an ambulance. And the strange thing is, as I would reach out to grab them, as I would do that, like this thing would disappear and it would go away and I would be fine. And I remember in this time, like all these things that I was going through, like sleep for me was the absolute worst. Like when I was at Bethel, like I had the worst sleep. I started to associate my bed with death, and sorry. I just remember this one night. I had this crazy, like, violent attack, like as I was trying to go to sleep, and this thing where I stopped breathing, and I stopped breathing, and it hit me so hard that I firmly believed, like, I'm going to go meet Jesus right now. I'm going to die right now. And the next night, Kelly freaked me out. Absolutely, like this crazy fear came over me. And the next night, Kelly said, "Okay, babe, we need to go to sleep." I was like, "Babe, I cannot go to sleep. Like, I am petrified to lie in my bed because I believe I'm going to die." Like this wild, crazy fear had hit me. I was so scared to go to sleep, so scared to lie in my bed. And some of you might not even know this. Like, you just lie in your bed and you go to sleep. Like, people who struggle with this stuff, like, it's a real thing. And I remember even being at Bethel one day and just opening up to my group and just saying, "Guys, like, I'm petrified to go to sleep." It was like a really raw, vulnerable moment for me. And they prayed for me, and nothing really changed. But after months and months of these things happening, it manifested the worst. When we were on a missions trip in second year, we went to Jamaica. I know what you're thinking, Jamaica missions trip. Yeah, right. Jamaica's probably the most wild, spiritually, actively crazy place I've ever been to in my life. And I was about to get onto the plane. We were sitting at an airport in Miami. And I was about to get on the plane. We were just hanging around, and we heard the boarding call. And I was standing around, and this thought hit me. You're going to fall down and have a seizure right now. And I started to feel it, and I literally started falling down. And as I was falling down, I grabbed my friend Justin standing next to me, and he almost caught me as I hit the ground. And that was it. So I didn't go into any seizure, but what happened was this crazy fear that I've never felt in my life, like this wild, deep fear, jumped on me. And in the past, like, I've had it, and it would come and go, but this time, like, it stuck. And this fear stuck to me. And I remember getting up, feeling so weak. I was literally shaking. My heart is racing. I was sweating. I was like, we need to call the doctor. What's going on? But we were literally about to board the plane. And I was like, they're all about to go. I can't be stuck in America. They all go to Jamaica. Like, what am I going to do? Help me. All my leaders are going. I don't know what to do. So I kind of just like made like it was okay. I was like, oh, I'm going to be fine. And I was so weak. I remember literally just like walking like this down those those tunnels that you go to get into the plane, and just walking like that. And I remember just getting into the plane, sitting against the window, putting my head against the side, and just praying that nothing bad would happen, thinking about absolutely nothing. And I was like, I just hope there's some medical person on this plane, because if something happens, I need help. And I just prayed that Jamaica would have good hospitals when I land. And they don't. They've got terrible hospitals, because we went to go pray for some people. And in Jamaica, I had like this fear just was on me all the time. Like I remember just being in a bus going from place to place, and like the sensation coming on me, and I'm like, had the thought I'm about to have a seizure, but the sensation would come, and I'm like, okay. It was almost like something's about to come. Something's coming. Something's coming. It was about to hit me, and I would tense up and freak out, and I would grab someone. And as I would grab someone, it would go away. And this was a constant thing through Jamaica. It was 2 weeks of like hell for me. I remember feeling so weak, so dizzy, my head just spinning constantly, multiple times a day. Felt like I was going to have a seizure, fall down, needed to go to hospital. I remember we took a break on one day in our missions trip in Jamaica, and we went down to the beach, and they had these big blow-up climbing walls in the ocean, and you'd swim out and you'd go climbing them, you'd jump off. It was real fun, and I went out with a friend, and we jumped off, and we swam back to the shore. And as we were swimming back, I heard this dark, evil voice in my mind, louder than I've actually ever heard the voice of God in my mind. And it said, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to drown you right now. And I swam like crazy. I'm like, Chad Leclos, he's got nothing on me. If he was in the ocean, he would be like stuck way behind. I paced it. I had this crazy, wild fear just like on me all the time. Like when I was in airports, like I could not walk down those tunnels, because I'd be walking and all of a sudden I can see the tunnel like in front of me, but I had the sensation that I was dropping and the floor was going beneath me. So I'd literally feel like I'm walking, but I'm going down, and I would literally have to stop and like hold myself for a few seconds, get myself together, and walk on like multiple times. It wasn't just like once off. I went to a doctor in Reading when I got back, and I remember I had one of these episodes as well, and felt like something was wrong with my body, like what's going on? I was feeling weak, and I went to him and like, Doc, you need to help me, like this is crazy, like I feel like I don't know what it is, I don't know. And he took tests, he took blood tests, he took a whole bunch of tests, and I'm like, this is it, they're going to sort it out, he's going to give me some good news, thank you. And he came back to me and he said, Shaun, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, like you're actually quite fit. So I'm like, thank you, but there's something wrong with me. Like, seriously, I can feel it in my body. And he said, just go and drink lots of water. It's like, that's not helping me at all. And I remember this time, like, sleeping got worse. Like, I would wake up not breathing, and bless Kelly, she's got some funny stories of me, like, literally grabbing her in the middle of the night and going, and, like, grabbing her. I'm like, if you wake up to, and somebody, like, grabbing your arm, like, that's pretty scary. I did it. Like, sometimes it would happen 4, 5, 6 times a night while I was trying to go to sleep. I'll be vulnerable with you guys. Like, I would go to the toilet, and I would have my cell phone with Kelly's number ready, because I was in a locked room, and I believed, like, if I was in a locked room and something happened, like, I would need to, as I was going, I could just hit the green button, I'd fall over. And that she would hear something was up, she wouldn't hear me, and that she would do something. And hopefully she would call an ambulance, and they would make it in time. If I couldn't be in a room by myself, I was freaked out, like these kind of things would happen. I thought I was going to die. I thought that nobody would find me for a while if I fell down, had a seizure, like all these kind of things. And we went to New York City the one time with Kelly, and like Kelly's dream was to go to New York City. Like that was her dream in life. And I feel so bad because I wasn't present. I wasn't fully there. New York City's got some like tall buildings, if you guys been there before. And I would literally walk with her down the streets, and she's like, oh, look up that building. And I'd stand there and be like, that was it. Like, that's how high I could look. because my head was constantly spinning nonstop. If I looked any higher, I would just fall over because my head was in this constant state of just swimming, crazy, spinning all the time. I remember, like, I won't go on, just crazy. And basically, we left the States, we came back to South Africa, and it didn't get any better. It got worse. My sleeping got worse. These feelings got worse. Constant thoughts, constant feelings. I would get to railings of like second floors in malls, and I would get close to them, and I had this weird sensation that something wanted to push me over those railings. I had this weird sensation, like this feeling like something was behind me and it was literally trying to push me to kill me, like push me over those railings. So I would literally like walk by the railings like this, like stay as far away as I could. I looked like such a weirdo in the shops. I remember we went to go watch shopping malls. Shopping malls were one of the craziest, hardest things for me to do. If it was wide open spaces and lots of people, it freaked me out. I remember just going into malls, and this is literally how I would walk in a shopping mall, like Gateway. This is the wall down the side of the shops. I would literally be going like this, like walking down the walls, because I couldn't stand in the middle because the big wide open spaces and lots of people all around me, it just freaked me out. Like it caused my head to spin like never ever before. And I remember going to watch a show at Artscape, which is a big theater in Cape Town. We went to watch Trevor Noah, and I remember being in the middle of the middle. So it's about 800 seats, being right in the middle. And something about that freaked me out, like wide open space, lots of people. And what it was I felt like something was going to happen. I was going to fall down and have a seizure. And by the time the ambulance got called and they came in, and people's knees are so close to those chairs, like right in front of you, they would never be able to get past and find me in time, and I was going to die. And it freaked me out, and this thought and this feeling come in. I would literally have to pinch myself and scratch myself in the theater to take these thoughts like away from my head. I was literally, I sound like a crazy person, but I was literally like scratching and pinching my arm to stop those thoughts coming to me. And I remember one day just being at work, and again, like at the end of work, just having this thought, like, I'm about to fall down and have a seizure right now. It's going to happen. And I remember standing there, and I was almost standing by a counter, and I kind of fell back as the sensation started hitting me. And I kind of like went, ah! Like I shouted so that if somebody could hear me before they saw me, so they could call the ambulance. And my friend kind of looked at me, and he's like, did you just go, ah, and sit down? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's weird. I'm telling you, like, this crazy, my life was just absolutely crazy, like crazy. But going through all of this, I was too scared to tell anyone what was going on. Kelly didn't even know what was going on besides the weird, like, grabbing her and scaring her in the night. But through all of this, through like years and years, and I'm talking this is like 8-9 years of this going on, I knew that God had a plan for my life. Like I sincerely knew that He had a plan for my life because He'd spoken to me, like He'd show me, like He'd give me a vision. But at some times or some points along the journey, I literally felt like my life was going to be cut short. And I was like, God, like in those moments, God, like I know that You've spoken. I know that You've said, like, I'm going to do this. You've shown me this is what You're going to do. But right now, I'm literally feeling like I'm about to die. I have these crazy, like, battles with God. Like, God, what is going on? What is happening? And it got to a point where I was like, I need to actually go get this sorted out. I need to figure out what this is. So I went to doctors back in Cape Town. And I went to many doctors. Like, they checked me out for vertigo. They thought it was vertigo. So I went to go to the doctor for vertigo, do the tests, not vertigo. The one doctor thought it was an extra bone in my neck that was causing me to feel like these crazy like sensations. Checked x-rays, all that stuff. It wasn't that. They thought it was sleep apnea. Checked that out. It wasn't that. And then the one doctor thought it was epilepsy. And that was quite scary because I remember going to a brain scan. I think it's MRI, is that right? The brain ones, where they put those little nodes on your head. So I had to like put these little things onto my head and sit in this chair. And I don't know why, but I just remember sitting in that chair and being completely freaked out. And I was 25, 26 years old, sitting in that chair, putting these brain things on my head. I was like, God, this is hectic. Like, what is going on? Like what happens if I get like really bad news on the other side? And I remember just sitting there and feeling like a scared little boy. 25, 26 years old, but on the inside, I was a petrified little boy. I was like, God, like, I'm scared right now. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I remember coming out of it, and I even remember sitting next to some of those epilepsy patients, and some of them, like, they need full-time carers, like 20, 30 times a day, they'll have fits. I'm like, God, if this happens to me, like, that is just crazy. And I remember going to the doctor expecting the worst, and he said to me, there's nothing wrong with you. And I was like, no, I know there's something wrong with me. I can feel it. I can feel it in my body. Like, I'm telling you, there's something wrong with me. And I remember just getting over it at that time. We'd spend money on doctors. We'd gone to get so many different opinions. And I was like, I'm over this. God, I'm just going to trust you, and I'm going to trust myself. And I'm going to like white knuckle this thing. So like when those sensations come, like through sheer willpower, I'm just going to push through myself. I'm just going to fight this. Like, that's it. That is what I'm doing. And what happened is, after work one day with friends, when I was back in Cape Town, we went to go get drinks at a place down the road, and I was having a Coke. We were sitting and talking, and I started zoning out. Had this thought pop into my head, I'm about to fall down and have a seizure. And I started going, my heart started racing, I started sweating, my head started spinning, and I started to like fall back into my chair. And my friends turned to me, they're like, Shaun, are you okay? Like, oh, you're right. And I'm like, guys, like, I just feel a bit crazy, it was weird. And this one was a bit different. They said, you need to go see a doctor. I was like, no, I do not want to see a doctor, because I've been to so many. And they told me the same thing, like, there's nothing wrong with me. Anyway, Kelly was with me, and she's like, babe, like, you don't look good, like, you look really pale, let's go to the doctor. And she took me down to the doctor, went through the doors. We met this, like, old lady, met her once in my life, old lady doctor, and she sat me down and she said, so what's going on? What are you feeling? And I explained to her, like, all this stuff. I've been to doctors. I got the sensation, like, I was trouble sleeping, like, I have all this stuff. I just blurted it out, blah. I'm like, again. And she said to me, she said, oh, well, that sounds a lot like anxiety. In my mind, I was like, no, like, you know, I'm Shaun, like, I'm super chilled. I'm, like, so chill, like, stuff doesn't get to me. And it's because I had associated anxiety with worry. I thought they were the same thing. So I was like, you know, I don't worry about stuff like this. Like, I really don't think that's me. And she's like, no, like, what you're explaining, it sounds exactly like anxiety. So she goes off and she comes back with this pill. And she says, here's this pill. Like, take this pill, put it under your tongue for 20 seconds. And if after 20 seconds you feel normal and still, then we'll know it's anxiety. And I'm like, what kind of pill is this? Like, what kind of pill can do this? Like, is this the Matrix? Like, seriously, like, this is crazy. So I take the pill, put it under my tongue, and after about, like, 10 seconds, I felt this instant peace. Almost like, I know the New Age people, they use the word centered, but, like, that's what I felt. Like, everything, just all the wildness, all the craziness, like, it all just came back. And I felt peace, which I hadn't felt in 10 years. I felt it in that moment. And the doctor said this. She said, how are you feeling? I'm like, I feel good. And she said, yeah, it's anxiety. And then what happened is I had this thought that popped into my mind. And I believe it was the voice of God. And it said, wow, it's just anxiety. And in that moment, supernaturally, anxiety lifted off of me. And it was gone forever. I went home that night. I slept sound like a baby. I walked through malls that day. I just walked them. I went to the airport a few weeks later for a missions trip to India. I walked down those tunnels. I showed those tunnels who's boss. I went back and forth and back. My pastor's like, what are you doing? I'm like, yo, you don't understand right now. I'm so excited. It supernaturally just lifted off me in that moment. And you see, you know what happened was all the power that the enemy had over me, it was in the fear of the unknown. It was in the fear of, like, what is this? What is going on? Like, I don't know what's happening. See, I had given him authority in my life to allow the anxiety in. But now the fact that I knew exactly what it was and it had come into the light, all of a sudden it wasn't so scary. Why? Because in my mind, Jesus is greater than anxiety, right? He's stronger than anxiety. He's paid the price for anxiety. He's done everything for anxiety. He's done it. And in that moment, it supernaturally just lifted off of me. See, because what it was the fear of the unknown. That was it. In my mind, I'd gone through, is it cancer, is it leukemia, like all that stuff, it plagued my mind. And all of that stuff, I'd start to partner with it, which started to create fear, which made me feel these crazy, crazy feelings. You see, all the fear that the devil had to use to control my thoughts and get into my head and my spirit, it was now in the light, and it lost its power because I knew the truth. And the truth was that Jesus is greater than anxiety. See, John 8, verse 32, it says, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And it's as if it was like, what is this? I had like this fear of like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And I feel like if you struggle with anxiety, it's a constant questioning. What if? What if? What if this happens? Like it's an impeding sense of doom. What if? What if this goes wrong? What if I get cancer too because my mom had cancer? What if my kid goes to school and falls on the jungle gym and breaks her neck and paralyzed for the rest of her life? What if this happens? What if that happens? And it's a constant state. People who struggle with anxiety, that is their thought process. See, but Jesus paid a price for you to have a higher thought process. And I just got a few more verses, and then we're just going to pray for some people. The power is just in the story. I've seen lots of people set free just through this testimony, but see, people think that spiritual warfare is like it's casting out demons, and it's going to like pull down strongholds over cities and that kind of stuff, and like that is a part of spiritual warfare. See, but the greatest, I believe, like one of the greatest levels of spiritual warfare is taking control of your thoughts when the enemy tries to give you his. And it's just taking them back and realizing. You see, what happened was, now, this is what it looks like. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't come to me anymore. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying like it doesn't happen. See, all that happens now is I know exactly what it is. So when I have the sensations, when I have those feelings, I'm like, no, that's not cancer. No, that's not epilepsy. No, it's not any of that stuff. That's anxiety. And anxiety, I now see you for what you are, and I'm not going to partner with you. So go back from whence you came and be off. And I'm free. I'm free. Because my thoughts have changed. My mind has been enlightened, like a light is switched on in my brain. Where in the past it was held in darkness and fear of the unknown. But God came in and He switched on a light, and everything changed. When I understood that He's paid it all, He's done it all, He has paid the price for anxiety, He is greater than anxiety. That is the revelation tonight. Like, it's not anything. I'm not going to go into any sort of like exegesis and pull anything out. The revelation tonight is Jesus is greater than anxiety. Like, I've experienced it. I've felt it personally. And you've got to know it can happen to you tonight. Jesus is greater than anxiety. He's greater. I just got 2 scriptures and then I'll be done, but it's just keys to help people who are struggling with this stuff. 3 quickly. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7 says, "For God did not give us a spirit of fear or timidity, but of power, love, and self-control." Some verses say self-discipline or a sound mind. And that word discipline, self-discipline, if you look it up, it basically means this. It means a calling to soundness of mind. And I love that. So what it's saying there is God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a calling to a sound mind. So like in your spirit right now, like in the DNA of your spirit, like right inside of you, your spirit carries a calling to sound mind, to sound-mindedness, if that's even a word. In our spirit is a call for our mind to be at peace with God, because God is peace. See, so many people think that with anxiety they cannot control their thoughts, but in our very spirits is the calling to walk in self-control, which means the ability for us to take control of our thoughts, which is the beginning of spiritual warfare. Just another key, if anyone's struggling with this, these are verses that have just helped me. This is a big one. Philippians 4 verse 6 to 8 says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things." See, this is a key for us. It's almost like steps that when I read this, it goes like this. It says, firstly, don't be anxious. First step, it's like, just don't be anxious. So I'm like, okay, but what happens if I'm still anxious, Jesus? Then it says, but in everything by prayer and supplication, thanksgiving, make your requests be known to God. What is that? That's prayer. That's relationship. Like you invite God into your life. You invite God into the space. You invite God into the process. You invite God into the thoughts. You invite Him into relationship, and you allow Him to move and do what only He can do. But then you say, Shaun, I've done that. It still doesn't help. And then I love it then. I think it's Paul who wrote Philippians, but he spells it out. He's like, well, if that doesn't work, if it says, don't be anxious, if that doesn't work, if relationship doesn't work, then do this. He like spells it out super practically. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, excellence, anything worthy of praise, think on these things. I'm like, that's it. And it's cool if you kind of work it backwards. If you're like, I don't know where to start, I'd say the first thing that you can start with is when you get like one of those crazy thoughts, just flip it. So it's like, don't be anxious. And then there's relationship with God. That's the second point. And then if you don't get it, just think good thoughts. Think godly thoughts. Think thoughts that are good. So you can work it backwards. If you're struggling, the easiest way to do it, just start to think good thoughts. Train your mind just to think good thoughts all the time. See, what I'm doing, I still struggle with it, but I know what it is, right? So what I'm doing is, right now, when thoughts come to me, oh, what happens if this happens? Or what happens if this all falls apart? I change it. I'm like, no. And I start doing this. I start to think on good things. And I say, what happens if angels come into the room and revival breaks out right now? I go to the craziest, like, good thing, if that makes sense. And then what happens is, that cultivates relationship with God. And then what happens is I find that I'm not anxious. You see? It's a process that's given to us by God. It's a key for us. And just my last verse that I have for you guys is somewhere here. I got so much stuff. It's just 2 verses. They're very short, but it's 1 Peter 5, verse 9. It says, resist him, standing firm in the faith. And the second one is James chapter 4, verse 7. It says, resist the devil, for he will flee from you. You see, the devil's weapons, his only weapon, I believe, is lies. That's all he has. And it's lies that are constantly thrown at us. Lies about your family, your health, what's going to happen to you, circumstances, everything. And the way that we battle him, we come against him, is we resist and we stand. With those 2 verses. It's the same thing with Ephesians 6. It talks about the armor of God. And I want to say to you, as I'm just closing, like, this is a constant battle. Like for me, it happens supernaturally, and I'm so thankful to Jesus, but I still have to constantly train my mind. I still have to constantly work at this. I still have to constantly do it on a daily basis. Usually, like leading up to conferences, like Kelly can tell I'm freaking out and I'm anxious. She says, babe, I can tell you're anxious now. And I go and I train my thoughts. I'm like, God, like, I'm thinking about good things. What is the best that can happen? What are you going to do? Like, I remind myself of who I am in Him. All these good things. There's a quote from Chris Vallotton. It says this: if you're dealing with anxiety, torment, fear, low self-esteem, depression, or any other negative emotion, it's very likely that you've forgotten the Creator of the universe loves you. Do not entertain the enemy's questions about how valuable you are. Let's stop believing lies. Let's embrace the truth and live in peace. And if that's anything, if that is one thing you guys can come away with tonight, is just knowing, like, at the root of what anxiety is, it's essentially lies that the enemy throws at you. And the way to battle that is resist, stand, fill your mind with these kind of thoughts in relationship with God, so that you won't be anxious anymore. Can we just close our eyes? I just want to pray for some people. Yeah, Jesus, I thank you for your goodness, God. I thank you how you changed my life, and just realizing today again how absolutely crazy and crippling anxiety had made me, God. And I know there's some people here tonight, like, you're even worse. Like, anxiety has got you even worse. Like, I know there's some of you, like, you can't even get out of bed in the morning because it's gripped you so much. Some of you, it's a constant impeding sense of doom. It's like some of you, it's actually pushed over into suicidal thoughts. Some of you, it's racked your brain, and you cannot see clearly. And it's just like almost as if like the enemy is just like smashing the ground around you. He's stomping, and the dust is just flying up, and you cannot tell where north is, where south is, where east is. You cannot even see a meter or 2 meters in front of you because the dust is just all up in the air. And right now, I just pray, Spirit of God, wind of God, just blow across these people's minds right now. And I just speak against anxiety. I just speak peace. I release my testimony of how you saved me, you delivered me from this, God. And I just release it over this people. And as the Spirit of God just comes, it'll just blow away that dust, and you'll be able to see clearly for the first time in years. You'll be able to think clearly for the first time in years. You'll get a brand new perspective. You'll get a new outlook on life. The Spirit of God is going to start to change you. You're going to start to get brand new vision. Things are going to change right now.